Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. So, in light of the defenses that have been put up by people who are trying to defend Batini Tafseer, one of the questions that we've received is that they're trying to launch an assault on the Arabic language and the clarity of the Arabic language by saying that anyone who tells you that Arabic is the language of the Arabs is lying to you. And what's the reason that's given? The reason that's given is that, well, there is no single uniform monolithic Arabic. Even during the time when the Quran was being revealed, there were so many different Arabic dialects. There were regional locutions. And so, how can you say that the Quran is so clear and easy to understand if the Arabs were divided into so many different tribes, and most of these prominent tribes had their own dialects? So anyone who tells you that Arabic is the language of the Arabs, therefore somehow is lying to you. It's like saying that anyone who tells you that English is the language of the British people, or the English people, or the people of England, or the people of America is lying to you. Because there is no single uniform English. There's so many different dialects. Within England itself, within the United Kingdom and Great Britain, you have different dialects. You've got Cockney English, you've got Estuary English, you've got received pronunciation, you've got the Oxbridge English. Worldwide, you have so many different Englishes. And they have some marked differences between them. You've got American English, you've got British English, you've got South African English, you've got Indian English, you've got Australian English. You've got so many different Englishes. New Zealand, they have their own English. But the existence of all these variations, all these different dialects, accents, and language types, does it detract from the clarity of the English language? It doesn't. And proof of this is that I'm sitting here giving you lectures in English, and we get feedback for these lectures from people in the UK, in the United States of America, Canada, African countries, Malaysia, Australia, South Africa. How are all these people understanding what we are saying? I mean, technically speaking, I can only speak one kind of English at a time, right? So let's say if I'm following the conventions of a certain English, let's say Indian English, how is it that the people in America are understanding me? And they're understanding me loud and clear without any problems. And if there is a few words here and there that they are not able to understand or that they're not accustomed to, they have recourse to dictionaries which will easily explain to them what it is that I meant. So sometimes when you're reading, let's say, American literature, you might come across very uniquely American words that are not common to other forms of spoken English. Well, you have dictionaries that help you make sense of those words, written by experts of American English. When you have certain words that are unique to British English, you have dictionaries for that as well. At the end of the day, the existence of multiple dialects has never been an issue as far as clarity is concerned. When the President of America gives a speech in English, when a Prime Minister in Britain gives a speech in English, and when the Prime Minister or President of any Commonwealth country gives a speech in English, or even an Arab leader, when he gives a speech in English, every English-speaking person is able to understand it, despite the fact that you have so many different Englishes. Same thing applies to the Quran. The Quran was revealed in Arabic. It was revealed in the simplest and clearest Arabic that was spoken by the Quraysh, Lahjat Quraysh, okay? And Lahjat Quraysh was the standard dialect that was spoken at that time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it in their dialect. The rest of the Arabs either understood it directly, or wherever they had doubts or confusions, they just asked the people of Quraysh, in your language, does this word mean exactly what we think it means? And yes, who's saying the Arabs do not have variation and they did not have their dialects? Of course they had their dialects. Some of them might even be mutually or might be difficult as far as comprehension is concerned. The people of Yemen, Himyar, okay, when their delegation came, we have a hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ in which he speaks to them in their dialect, you know. لَيْسَ مِنْ إِمْبِرٍ إِمْصِيَامٍ فِي إِمْسَفَرِ. Right? So, yes, he spoke to them in their dialect. But this dialect, if you notice, has a very slight variation. It's addition of certain words. But at the end of the day, there was nothing in the Arabic of the Quran that would render it incomprehensible to those who were outside Hijaz among the Arabs or even other tribes. And in some of the nitty-gritty areas where they did have sometimes confusion, they wanted to find out, does this word really mean what it means? Yani this word, what it means in our dialect. Is it the same meaning that Allah intends? They would just confirm from the Quraysh and ask them, does this word really mean what it means? And they would get the confirmation. So at the end of the day, if I tell you, bring me a glass of water, okay, I don't care which English you speak, whether it is South African English or British English or American English or Australian English, bring me a glass of water is bring me a glass of water. The only person who will try to create doubt and say, no, well, English isn't a uniform language, is a person who doesn't want to bring me the glass of water. Okay, it's true English is not a uniform language. It has many different dialects and spoken accents and all of that, but that does not detract from its clarity. Otherwise, English-speaking people would not be able to understand each other. The whole reason why the American can understand the Britisher, and the Britisher can understand the Indian, and the Indian can understand the Australian, is because despite all the differences, okay, most of English, like 80%, 90% of English is such that it is universally understood. And the 10-15% unique English, which is unique to certain areas, is also very clear because it is spoken by so many people that you have a large enough community to explain to you what certain words mean if you're not able to understand them. So it's just like if we move away from regional variations in English, we also have what you call age-based variations. So you'll notice the English that our young people, youths, children, teenagers, the English that they speak is very different sometimes even unintelligible as far as the elders and adults are concerned. So when a teenager, for example, says, oh, this is lit, man, this is lit. Yeah, if you ask a septuagenarian, he probably would not know what lit in the context of this youngster or this teen speak, what lit in his terminology means. But despite this linguistic variation, the English language and teen speak itself is very clear. Why? Because if an elderly person does not understand the meaning of lit, the youth community is large enough to have representatives on the internet who have actually established dedicated websites which translate for you and interpret for you teen speak. Okay, so if you hear a youth or a young person speaking anything that you don't understand, because the youths have, you see, that's how language works. It works on the basis of convention, agreed upon conventions. Okay, so youths, they have this convention going on that when we want to describe something a certain way, we will say it is lit. Okay, and this convention is known to all of the youths. It's not like some Batini meaning that only one youth or a group of 3 youths in the world know. That's not how language works. If language is such that it can only be understood and deciphered by one person, then it is not language. Okay, for language it has to be based on convention. Any departure from convention and you're not dealing with a language anymore. You're dealing with a bunch of confused codes that you have invented yourself. For it to be language, it has to be accepted by a large group of people. That's when you can say it is language. So what this what these people want to do is they want to assault the language of the Quran, attack the language of the Quran by saying, no, no, what the Arabs spoke was something else, what the Quran is saying is something else. That is not the case. Despite all the diversity in Arabic dialects, the Quran spoke to the Arabs in a language that was 90% comprehensible to them without any issues, and the 10% which was unique Qurayshi dialect, some words, few and far between, which were used from the Qurayshi dialect, the Arabs did not have a problem in understanding those, because they just asked the Quraysh, what does this exactly mean in your language? And there were always enough representatives from Quraysh to make it clear to the Arabs what that certain word meant. There were other linguistic constructions sometimes, or words that were used from non-Qurayshi dialects because they were famous and popular. So yes, even people who speak American English, at times they will use certain words or expressions from British English, for example, that have become very popular, and vice versa. That's also okay. So long as those words are known and popular. Language and communication is all based on people understanding what you're trying to say. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the approach that He followed. He used words freely from the Arabic language, and He didn't use anything that no Arab could understand at all, especially not the immediate audience. And this is how the Quran has been understood for the last 14 centuries, on the basis of how the local audience, the immediate audience, the people who were first addressed by the Quran and who understood it, and who, because they understood it, you see, the Quran actually praises the community of believers. In Medina, the early community of believers in Makkah, the Quran is full of praises for them. And the fact that it is full of praises for them shows you that they understood God's vision and they implemented it correctly. That's why God praised them. Otherwise, if this person's allegation is correct, that no one understood the Quran, the Arabs didn't understand the Quran, then what was God praising the Muhajirin and Ansar and the companions of the Prophet and the family of the Prophet? What is God doing praising them in the Quran? He should be condemning them and yelling at them, saying, I am speaking, this special Abrahamic locution which you people are failing to understand. You're not implementing my vision. But no, we don't see the Quran doing that. We see the Quran praising them. And where they depart or deviate from that vision, you see the Quran also reprimands them. At the end of the day, the Quran was understood by both believers and unbelievers. The believers believed in it because they understood it, and the disbelievers rejected it because they understood it. And they didn't like its message. It's as simple as that. So yeah, don't be fooled by people telling you, well, Arabic has different schools of grammar, which, for example, Dr. Shawqi Daif, yes, he has written a whole book, Al-Madaris al-Nahawiyya. You had the Basra school of grammar, you had the Kufa school of grammar, you had the Andalusian school of grammar, you had the Baghdadi school of grammar, the Mosul school of grammar, yes. But these schools of grammar do not create any problem. They are all united on the i'rab of words. Where they differ is on explaining why a certain grammatical phenomenon is the way it is. Okay, so this is also very important to understand. It's not like if you study Arabic in light of Kufan grammar, you will get a completely different result. And if you study in light of Basran grammar, you will get a completely different result. No, the result is always the same. The maf'ul will always be mansoob. Okay, and the hal, for example, will always be mansoob. But the explanations for why a certain thing is a certain way will differ. Okay, so to break it down, to give you an example, okay, to make it concrete, because those who are non-specialists will not understand. It's like, let's say I am wearing a black coat. Okay, the Kufan grammars, the grammarians of Kufa, they say he's wearing a black coat. The grammars of Basra also say the same thing. He's wearing a black coat. So you say, so then why do they have different schools? They have different schools because they differ on the reasoning behind why I'm wearing a black coat. So the Kufan grammarians will come and say, well, he's wearing a black coat because he just came back from a funeral. That sounds like a logical explanation. People at funerals generally dress in black. So if he's wearing black, he probably just returned from a funeral. That's one theory. and you may debate it, you may dispute it, you may even reject it. It does not change the fact that I'm wearing black. The fact that I'm wearing black is established. Your theory for why I'm wearing it could be wrong, could be contestable, could be debatable. But the actual fact that I'm wearing black is not in dispute. The school of Basra will come and say, no, no, no. He's not wearing, you're mistaken. He's not wearing black because he has returned from a funeral. He's actually wearing black because he has a personal preference for the color black. He just likes wearing black. And we can prove it to you, and our proof is, look at this occasion. They might show you maybe a photo from a wedding ceremony where I was dressed in black. They say, see, this is a wedding ceremony, not a funeral, and he's dressed in black. So what does that tell you? It tells you black is not simply a color of mourning for him. He wears black on happy occasions as well. So the Kufan explanation is wrong. The fact that he's wearing black is not an absolute indication that he has returned from a funeral. It could be something else. And in this case, we are saying it's this. So you understand, all of the differences in grammar in Arabic, and there are a lot of differences, are in ta'leel. Grammar was all about offering explanations for why certain things are in a certain way in Arabic. Okay, so there are certain words that have certain i'rab. Okay, for those of you who are not specialists, just put it like this. Certain words in Arabic, they wear green clothes. And certain words in Arabic wear black clothes. And certain words wear white clothes. And the grammarians are fighting with each other and differing over their explanations as to why a certain word is wearing green clothes, or why a certain word is wearing black clothes. Okay, so the example of clothes and colors that I've given you is basically i'rab. So they will fight over whether a certain word should be mansub, yani it should have fatha on it, or it should have kasra on it. And they will also fight on why a certain word, if it has a fatha on it, why exactly does it have a fatha on it? Okay, the Kufan grammarian will say because of this reason. The Basran grammarian will say because of this reason. It doesn't change the fact that at the end of the day, what you are supposed to be concerned with is that it has a fatha. That's what we know for certainty. Why it has the fatha, you can have endless. We have Kufa and Basran, you can invent a third school and say, I think this is why this word has fatha. I mean, no one's stopping you. You understand? So don't let people confuse you with Arabic grammar and diversity in dialects and speech patterns and all of that. That exists in every language. Okay? And conventions differ from region to region, place to place. That's all okay. That does not cancel the clarity of language. Okay, as I told you, American English in certain areas is very different from British English. British English is very different in certain areas from South African English and from Australian English and from Indian English. You've got so many different Englishes, but English, despite all its diversity and despite all its differences, is such that today when I speak to you in English, people in America can understand what I'm saying, people in Britain can understand what I'm saying, people in Africa can understand what I'm saying, people in India can understand what I'm saying. English has a universality to it. Despite its diversity, English has a quality about it that it can be understood. When it is spoken, it is understood. Even the Arabs who know English understand what I'm saying. You understand? In the same way, Arabic is just like that. It's not really unique in this sense. It's like any other language of the world. It has diversity within it. You had different tribal dialects, regional dialects. To this very day, you have so many different kinds of colloquial Arabic. The Iraqis have their colloquial Arabic, the Syrians have their colloquial Arabic, and that's why when, for example, the Moroccan wants to communicate with a Saudi, if the Moroccan starts speaking his colloquial dialect, I guarantee you the Saudi will not understand him. And if a Saudi speaks his local dialect, the Moroccan will have trouble understanding him. That's why when the Moroccan and the Saudi meet, which Arabic do they speak? They speak the Arabic of the Quran, the Fusha, right? They speak the Arabic of the Quran because the Quran has standardized Arabic. Thanks to the Quran, now the Egyptian can understand the Moroccan can understand the Lebanese, provided they speak the dialect of the Quran, the actual Arabic of the Quran. So in that sense, Arabic, and this is also something mentioned by the historians of Arabic language and literature, that the Quran served as a unifier. The Quran unified and standardized Arabic for the Arabs. So in that sense, the Quran has a contribution that it has made to Arabic language, to Arabic literature, to culture, and the Quran has served as a great unifying force for the Arabs. And even to this very day, the Quran is the reason why the Egyptian can understand the Moroccan and the Moroccan can understand the Egyptian. They both would not understand each other if they spoke their local dialects. But if they speak the common Arabic of the Quran, they will both understand each other. And that's why the Quran is understood very easily by the Egyptians, by the Moroccans, by everyone today. Because, it was revealed in that standard Arabic, clear, plain, simple Arabic, which the Arabs of the time spoke and which they understood effortlessly. Just as today, we have so much diversity in the English language, so many varieties, Australian, North American, this, that, yet we are all able to understand each other. 90% of the time when we speak, we don't have any problems. So Australian, yes, they might have problems with accents. For example, I do recognize that certain accents of English are very difficult to decipher for those who are not from that. For example, the Scottish accent, for example, would be very difficult to understand for certain people in India. Perhaps even when Russians speak, English, or other foreign people speak English, sometimes it can be difficult even for native speakers to understand. But all of that can be solved if you write it down. So written language does not have that problem. Okay, if a person has good knowledge of written English, if a Scottish person writes down his sentence, even the local Indian would be able to understand what he's saying. But when he speaks, the accent is so thick sometimes that they might have difficulty. With Arabic, it was not that. The Quran was really in the purest, clearest, most flowing accent. فَإِنَّمَا يَسَّرْنَاهُ بِلِسَانِكَ, as Allah says. We made this easy on the tongue. So it's a very easy, flowing Arabic that everyone can understand, and that's how Allah completed His proof against the creations. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing. Also click the bell icon and choose the all option to get notified for upcoming videos automatically.